Already, and I've already given you screen record privileges.
And I'm recording. Let's go.
Oh,
Colin's doing his job today.
we finally got it right. It only took us all of 2020, but we got it right.
Hey, week 39 is the charm, you know?
Is that where we're at? 39?
I think so.
So I went back and listened that the first show we did this year was the Friday before the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Where we talked about your
Why you gotta bring that up? Like that's the fucking unit of measure, dude. Come on.
No, there's a journey. There's a journey there that I wanted to document. So
Fair.
39 episodes out of an available, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out of an available 4, we'll call it 47 just for ballpark. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'll take that.
And I think that's two of the things I kind of wanted to focus on today. Kind of an impromptu, well, not even an impromptu show, but an unannounced show for the final week of 2020 is, you know, we can sit here and discuss all the negative things about 2020. And I want to preface everything I'm about to say by, I understand that there's some serious crap going on in the world. I get that. I don't want to downplay any of that. I understand that many people have lost loved ones. I understand that many people have lost businesses. I understand that many people have lost, their mental, there's a lot of mental health issues going on right now. There's so much going on, but that's never been the crux of this show. From the beginning, a month before the pandemic hit, we wanted to focus on positive. We wanted to focus on, we started as almost like side hustle, or if you weren't happy with the 9 to 5, or if you wanted to make a little extra money on the side, what are the things we could do? Little did we know that this podcast would turn into almost, hopefully, a small playbook of how to deal with all of this through the pandemic. So I just want to preface it by saying that. But for me, I want to focus on one thing. That was the question that I posed today on Facebook, was one thing that was the highlight for you in 2020, or the best thing in 2020. And then I really do. I want to focus on I want to be, almost selfish for a minute and focus on your and my goals for this show for 2020. So I think my first question to you is, I'll do the same one I just posed to people watching live, is when I say, what is the best thing about 2020? What's the first thing that pops into your mind?
The first thing that came to my head was just the awakening that you saw with not all, but a lot of people into just how malleable this world is. Mm-hmm. Whether that was, jobs going remote and being able to work from home, whether that was realizing that you could build very strong digital and e-commerce presences in a world where maybe you weren't even thinking about that 9 months ago. I think just the accelerated willingness and ability to innovate and look at new things, and the inspiration that a lot of people drew from that, I think that'll be the biggest thing that I take away from 2020.
I agree. And other than the obvious of, health of family and pulling through this, and, my wife getting her first vaccination 2 weeks ago, and looking forward to getting the second one, and just, assuaging her, not guilt, but just, everything sitting on her shoulders, about potentially bringing the virus home to us. But yeah, business wise, I agree with you that not that you and I are Nostradamus when it came to us knowing that something like this was going to happen, but we never thought of it at this magnitude. Usually it's a little blip on the radar, or it's like a 2008 with a housing crisis, or a banking crisis, or a car crisis, or whatever. That's why doing the things that we talk about, and everybody can get better about it. And that's one of the things that's one of my goals for 2021, is you and I getting better at what we do, and just trying to continue to build out what we're trying to build out. But that's why we always kind of give the same 5 pieces of advice, is because when you're doing these things, you are less susceptible to these huge market corrections. And I'll even take it a step further. You can even be ahead when some of these market corrections happen. And I'm not ever saying 100-year global crisis, but when some of these market crises happen, because They're tried, they're true, and they work as long as you commit to create the plan, commit to the plan, even when it's not going well. And for me, that's the plan. That the plan worked in that business is great, thank goodness, but it's because of the work that had been put in place.
For sure. I think the kind of the best way to encapsulate it for me is, and it's not a new saying, but, life, business, all this, it's, 10% what happens and 90% how you respond to it.
Right.
And I'm glad that you kicked off the show the way that you did, because I do think it's important to kind of take a step back where, there's a lot of industries where no matter how well you responded to it, you're hurting right now. And I think it is important to kind of acknowledge that and be empathetic to that.
Yep.
But, that being said, I think you and I are very fortunate, like we've talked about, from an industry standpoint, we weren't really disrupted at all, if you want to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
And B, where I think we're actually like the actual just kind of serendipity comes in, I think you and I have very similar personalities to how we approach life and conflicts and roadblocks, where, we embrace the 90% how we respond to it, because we know that we have no control over that 10% anyway. Mm-hmm. So stressing about it or panicking about it or, going out of our way to plan for shit that may or may not happen, it's never even on the radar. Mm-hmm. There's so much comfort in that 90%. I know that I'll figure out how to respond to this and I'll deal with that when it comes. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think just our wiring is made for this.
Yep.
So I think that's a big thing to acknowledge. And you can't really teach that, but that's where I think one thing that hopefully 2020 will be a positive of is I think that it did show a lot of people, hey, you can have success there. Hey, you can come into a situation not having answers and figure it out. Mm-hmm. You can come out the other side stronger, more diverse, more prepared, that if, hopefully not something like this again, but smaller hiccups down the road, you can counterpunch to that. You can adjust. You can get through it okay. So that's just kind of my big picture vision of it, where I think that comes to you and it comes to me very naturally. And my hope is that everything that this year brought showed other people that they may not want to live on that end of the spectrum, but if they have to go there for whatever reason, they can, and they can do it with a good amount of success.
Great point. So chiming in, Ange, thanks for watching. Dan, Ange said she got married to, she got married with some of her best friends by our sides. So I was at Ange's wedding. I was very fortunate to be included in that, which was a beautiful day, beautiful ceremony. And Dan, he says, Adam's gonna love this one. The Buffalo Bills are just fun to watch again. They have arrived. Dan, not only have they arrived, I'm gonna say that if they play their cards right, they could have a stranglehold on the AFC East here for a good 3 to 5 year stretch. We'll see. It's the NFL. Injuries are always a possibility. You never know. But yeah, man, we're a very happy Buffalo Bills family this year. That's for sure.
Listen, I got nothing but love for the Buffalo Bills. I think that the Buffalo Bills and my San Francisco 49ers have been very intertwined over the last 40 years. Yep. We were really good, and then we were really bad, and then here we are. So I'm here for it. Bills Mafia, I got your back this postseason. I got nothing else going on due to the $180 million that was on IR for my team this year. So I'm here. Bring on the Zubaz pants and the Labatt Blue. I'm fucking in.
They are fun to watch, that's for sure, and especially when you have Steph Diggs on your fantasy team from something that I heard. So it's a good time to be a Buffalo Bills fan, that's for sure. I think heading into 2021, we have again, we don't get political on this show, but there are the end of the tunnel, as they say, or whatever it is. The end of the tunnel, you can see it. It's going to be a little bit longer than I think we thought. But I think for me is if let me take half a step backwards is if you tried something this year and it didn't work, okay, it didn't work. I think this is something that I've been able to kind of get over in my career is if something doesn't work, the more you sit there and ponder and kind of take it personally, I think the worse it's going to be. But here, let's turn it on the flip side, the sunny side. I want to focus on the positive today is what a better time to start something new. Like if you tried something new, a new side hustle or a new business or something, and it didn't work out this year, guess what? There's a lot of people that didn't work out. There was just some market forces that were just too strong for some industries to survive this year. I get that. And yes, I'm overly optimistic on a lot of things, but on that, I'm very sympathetic that it just didn't work. I get it. But right now, these next 6 months between now and Memorial Day, what a better time to start. Like if you have either a hospitality business or you name it, there are so many businesses that you can look back and learn over the last 12 months to say, how can I make my business better, or a new business or a new side hustle or whatever it is, to say by Memorial Day. This is what I tell my teenage son because he's working out like crazy and he wants to get in the best shape of his life. I go, great, do this.
Best shape of his life. What, a decade and a half? Get out of it.
It's 14. Hey, it's you got to have goals, right? I said, okay. So we started, I think together 8 weeks ago. He's already seeing results. And I said, great, stick your nose to the grindstone and then look at yourself on Memorial Day. It's the same thing in business is stick your nose to the grindstone, see what you want to do set those goals, which I want to do here in a minute with us. And then look up on Memorial Day and see where you stand.
Are you trying to equate building a strong business and working out then? What an analogy that is.
Somebody little birdie once got in my ear and made that analogy and it just stuck with me.
Wow. Sounds like a very wise young bird. Handsome too.
That's right. So let's do this. Let's talk about this show for a minute. Let's talk about 39 episodes of this show. Why we did it, what we're doing with it currently, and what we hope to do in the future. So let's just recap. Let's reset a little bit. Why did you and I, the Friday before the Super Bowl in January, why did you and I finally flip the camera open and start talking about what we love to do and what we think, how we want to draw upon our experiences and what we can contribute a little bit of value to people?
Well, the short answer is that we know that that's the answer to how to market and how to grow a business in 2021. Frankly, it was the answer in 2019. But, it's something that we talked about for a long time. And then, like we always say, you have to just hit that Nike point and just do it. And what it does is it just fills the hopper. The one thing that we literally just went through it with a call that I got off just before I jumped on here. There's 3 things that you need to execute marketing strategy, branding strategy, growth strategy. It's all the same to some regard at the end of the day. You need really great content, which I think we have. You need consistency. You can't do it one time and expect it to work. And then you need the attention of the people that need to see it. So we've spent 40 weeks locking down number 1 and number 2, right? And the nice part for us is we did it in a way where that content is going to live forever. It wasn't something that had to be done that week or disrupt the flow of what we had going on, or something that we invest 4 weeks doing up front and then it all goes to shit because COVID hit and all the shit we talked about doesn't make sense anymore. I think we were very smart in how we did that.
Yep.
Where it was quite literally just documenting the shit we were doing. It is the behind the scenes extra on our DVD. That's there. And now we have almost 2 full days worth of content that now we can go in and think, okay, what did we talk about? What did we make great points on? What were the most valuable things that people need to hear the most? And we can go back. And whether it's us or whether we find some kind of intern, which I hope we do, because I don't think you and I have the time to do it ourselves, we can go in and we can come up with a plan. where we can say, okay, this is what we want out of this. I want more clients for what I do. Ben wants more clients for what he does. Ideally, in the best of best case scenarios, we find people that are the same, where they're your client and my client together. Because as we've seen, that's a pretty powerful dynamic. So like, okay, great. That's our goal. What do we need to do to make that happen? So we know that the people that we work with are not going to take 48 minutes out of their day to sit there and watch a full show start to finish, in all likelihood. Like my dad doesn't even do that, and my dad loves me more than anything. He'll see a couple minutes on here, and then he's like, that was awesome, right? So we have to go through the 46 hours worth of content that we have, and I would literally make buckets of items. So like, you know, tactical branding stuff, you know, innovating to fit the market, you know, mistakes that people are making every day that they don't realize they're making. Come up with buckets there, and then find a way, whether it's our intern, whether it's forever, hey, go through these and make notes and clip 90 seconds at a time. And ideally, when we talk about actual marketing strategy, have 11 90-second clips that talk about that. And then, you know, what do we always say? People buy from people. Great. So anytime there's something where you're talking about being on the boat or being the wine guy or like stuff that makes you or stuff that makes me, clip those. So then we have 12 more 90-second clips. This is Ben. This is Adam. This is their bromance, right? Awesome. Okay, then so on and so on. Map those things out. And then literally, so like at the end of the day, say you have 6 buckets, say you have 10 clips in each, that's 60 in-depth pieces of content that we'll make sure, you know, are properly captioned, because nobody watches these things with sound on anymore. You know, have a little thing in the beginning. This is what we're talking about. You know, there's a certain dude that you and I follow very closely. Does a very good job of overlaying graphics so you know exactly what that video is about before you look at it. And then if we could do that 60 times, like half your content for the year is done. You know, and then we make sure like do it like one like we normally do when we upload it to YouTube. Awesome. Do one this way for Instagram stories, and who knows what the fuck LinkedIn stories are going to look like a month from now, you know, and have it native to all those platforms. And then just go, and then just find somebody that's good at the targeted digital stuff to help out with getting it in front of the right people. And then, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, you look up in December of 2021, and it's 22 clients we have in common, not 2. Maybe not 22. That's what, well, who knows? I don't know.
No, we don't know. And I think that's the exciting part for me is that, you know, when we started this project together 11 months ago, you know, I was the one that said, how can we monetize this? What can we do? Let's go. After like 12 episodes, you're like, dude, chill, trust the process. You know, I was the client that came to you and said, I want to start making money on this after 3 weeks, right now. And you said, listen, because we were in the middle of, you know, that's when the pandemic hit, right? After about, I'm like, we got to make money. Even though business was great, I'm like, we have to squeeze. And you're like, nope, trust the process. And I didn't say a peep between episodes 12 and 39. And I'm like, just year end, it's time to kind of, you know, look forward. And you're like, yeah, it's time. It's time to do that. We have enough now. But we needed 39 weeks of recording this show to be able to say, okay, we now have the right content or the right pillar. I like that word a lot, the pillars. We have enough themes, right? There's 4 or 5 themes here that you just beautifully described. Now we have a way to be able to repackage it and get it in front of the right people. Because here's the punchline for me. Just by doing this show, and hopefully here's the punchline for other people. One of the goals that Adam and I had at the beginning of this year was to have co-branded clients together, because we feel as though What he does and what I do are two completely different things, but coming together, they're just a much more powerful force.
Okay.
Guess what? We had 3 clients this year. We had 3 clients together just by doing this together and be able to show them to say, listen, we're better together than we are apart. Here it is. So that was one of our goals in 2020. Check, did that. Continue to do that. Continue to grow this. Then what's going to be fun for me is, they call this process, and I'm a big politics head in Washington. I'm really not on either side. I like kind of the human drama of it. They call it making, when they do policy making, they call it making the sausage. So for you and I putting together this podcast, this is making the sausage.
Yep.
What's going to happen now is that when we repackage all of this and rebrand this and then retarget this with the right people are not only going to come to us and say, how did you make your own sausage? They're going to say, can you help me make my own sausage? And then at that point, that's where I want to get to you and I, is not only is it client-based stuff, but it's also on this side, it's also sausage clients over here to say, I want to do what you guys did. Show me the way. It's like, okay, guess what? We need a year from you. We need a year of you sitting in front of a camera like this. You don't have to be alone. That's a scary proposition. I get it. It's much easier to talk to a face than it is to a screen. I get that. But we need a year from you, Mrs. Attorney, Mrs. Plumber, Mrs. Whoever. We need a year before we even start about talking about making money from your own sausage making. And that's what's exciting for me, is that before, it's not like we were faking the funk about all this stuff. But now I feel almost more validated because we've gone through the process. Like, it's like, all right, who are you to tell me that I should sit down and do a podcast for a year? Well, here's our podcast for a year. Here's why it works. Then we can show tangible results. That's why I'm excited about that, why we did this in 2020.
Yeah, I think anytime you're your own best client for a service, it is the epitome of putting your money, and more importantly, your time where your mouth is. And that's where I think now, 39, I just looked it up, 39 episodes in today, we're going to have, as we get into this stuff and we start doing what we're going to do, there's no question that you're not going to be able to answer with substance.
Right.
Anytime anybody asks you about this, right? Because that's the other thing too. We can only create 60 different 90-second clips because we have 40 episodes and 40 some hours to pull from. If we tried to do that week 10, we might have 2 or 3 of each. And then, okay, great. But so what? Never mind the fact that you also got to be cognizant of where we're at in the world. Is April of 2020 the time that you want to be hitting people up for podcast sponsorships? Some people, yeah, maybe. Some people, get the fuck out of my office, So I think just being cognizant of all that, and literally nothing, and I honestly believe this, especially with the people that we work with, the fact that we've taken, and we've missed 6 shows for the year. The fact that we have made time and taken, call it an hour and a half every Friday out to do this for, on paper right now, nothing. We've gotten some people see our stuff and it reinforces things and kind of helps close deals on occasion. But for the most part, and for where we're going, nothing so far. I think saying, hey, dude, I've invested literally 40 hours of my life into this, never mind editing and all that, for nothing so far, because of what we're about to do, because I believe in it that much, because I believe that that's the answer. And the really fun part for me in just knowing it, because it's getting into the nerdy shit that we do, wait until you see the clips that we can pull that are going to be so relevant. I was really planning on the 49ers winning the Super Bowl this year, but a bunch of torn ACLs and calf muscles have ruined that. So when they win it next year, I'm going to go right back to that clip when we did that on the 3rd show. You know what I mean? When Taven's jacked and really in the best phase of his life, we're going to say Look at him now. Look back when he didn't get a haircut for 4 months in quarantine, and that 30 seconds of the show. You know, we're going to have so much stuff like that. LinkedIn stories, there's going to be a Forbes article a year and a half from now where they said LinkedIn stories are the hottest new thing because of this. And we're like, hey, remember when we said that in 2000? Like, this is where it gets fun. And I think you're 100% right. This show feels very much to me like the social media marketing that we did for Community in 2014. And we were our own best customer. And every business that we worked with came to us and they're like, how are you guys doing this? So we showed them and they're like, hey, can you do it for us? And then here we are. It's the same concept with this, where if you figure out this system, you're 100% right. Give us an hour a week for 50 weeks. Here's what we're going to do. And we're going to coach you through the first 6 months. And then beginning of month 7, we're going to start actually clipping content and doing our thing. And then by month 12, you're going to be like, holy fuck, I'm glad we did this.
Yep.
But we couldn't lay that plan out unless we did it ourselves.
Well, and that's exactly right. The early version of this, I'll give you some context. The early version of this show for me was sitting in the back of the distillery 6 years ago and watching Gary Vaynerchuk videos saying, you know, flip open a camera, talk. But I've never been, you know me, I've never been the single camera guy. So I needed somebody to bounce off of. I need to see somebody's face. I'm a talker. I get it. So we did an early version of an interview show in the distillery. I don't know if you remember this. From my buddy Jason.
Yep.
And
Fowler was the first person to curse on it. I remember.
Yes, he was. Fowler was there. Biley was there. There was a lot of people there. Lauren Cochin was there. There was a lot of people there. This was almost 5-6 years ago. And I remember those used to be cold, dark nights at the distillery by myself. I go, and you were there from the beginning. I was standing around, looking around going, how the heck am I going to produce interesting content standing in the back of a warehouse when it's 47 degrees and I got my jacket buttoned up to here? And I mean, you remember those days, man. I go, man, I got to bring somebody else in. I have to talk to somebody else. I said, why not be, this got drilled into my head for years before I pulled the trigger. And this is what Gary always used to say, become your own media company. Become your own media company. And that was just me interviewing people in the community, like, you know, like Biley, like Fowler, you know, like all these guys. And I don't know if you ever knew this, but all 3 of my stills in the warehouse, they were running while we were shooting the show. Like I would reach over every once in a while or something would happen. I'd have to go over and adjust like a valve or something. And I remember the first one that went, you know, kind of crazy. We had an actor on there and he had a very big following. And we ended up getting, it was Michael Speech from Speech Family Chocolate Company. Michael was on there and he was a ninja on Facebook at the time. And he kept sharing and sharing and sharing. That one video was like 25 minutes of an interview with Michael. It got like 30,000 views on my YouTube page. Or I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I need to be doing. And then, so fast forward to the first year of the New York State Fair. This is my favorite video that I've ever done of all time in 7 years of finally buying into it. It was the opening day of the New York State Fair in 2016. And I had 2 cameras. I wish I had them here. I had 2 little rinky-dink cameras. My kids were like, I think they were, 4 years ago. So Taven was 10, Paige was 8. I had 2 cameras from the front of the New York State Fair following us to where the Disco Lemonade booth was. I think you probably remember this one.
Yep.
And I went and I edited that video together. I kept going from her view to his view. I'm like, you know, blah, 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 life rally. You want to find Disco Lemonade? Here's how you get here. And I stopped like every 30 seconds to get where it was. People shared that video over. It ended up getting like 37,000 views on Facebook. And I was like, this is it. So I've always been in the mindset of doing stuff like this, having digitally rich content like this is always good strategy. But now it took an entire year for you and I to kind of bring it into focus and be like, no, this is what we want to do. This is what we should do. And then eventually, yeah, we'll find podcast sponsors this year. You and I have very lofty expectations for this. I don't know if I'm really on record to say what I've said to you yet, but maybe. And then eventually we'll find the people that want to make their own sausage. So, but you're right. That ticket to entry was 40 shows, 45 minutes, 45 hours of our life this year.
Yeah, which like, I don't know. It's so obvious to me, but I know that it's not obvious to everybody else yet. But I also know that it's gonna be. Like I tell the story on here all the time. When we started KBL, 2015, we were literally charging $400, ad budget included, which was against policy at the time. Sorry, Facebook. We've since fixed it. We're good. To run Facebook and Instagram. $400. People told us we were fucking nuts. But it's quite a bit more than that now. And I spend a lot less time convincing people that marketing and telling their story on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn is a good idea than I did in 2015. Mm-hmm. And this podcast show, whatever you want to call it, feels a lot like that, you know? And I think what you saw was a lot of people tried it kind of over quarantine because in their gut, they know it, but they don't know what the fuck to do, how often to do it, how to edit it, what to talk about, what not to talk about, what do we do with it after, how do we get listeners, how do we monetize? Call Adam and Ben. Done.
Yep. And you know what? I give people a lot of credit for knowing that it's worth it, but it's human nature. We live in this, TikTok. My kids, I've said this a million times, my kids can't even sit through a 5-second pre-roll YouTube ad anymore. That's how short the attention span's gotten. We've gotten into this transactional instant gratification world, which is fine. I'm down with it. I'm down with technology. I'm down with all of those things. I don't want to sit through it's gotten to the point where I don't want to sit through a 5-second YouTube video, pre-roll. Mm-hmm. But, the minute you quit it does become a little bit of a waste of time of what you've tried to invest in, and that's for me ultimately what I like about what's happened in 2020 and what this plan that you've just laid out in 2021 makes so much sense to me. And quite frankly, with all of the fun things that I'm working on, I mean, this has to be right at the top, if not the top of the list, like it's right there of projects and things that I want to spend my time on, because it's gotten to the point now where, I felt really guilty. I missed those 2 weeks in August. I was up at the river for 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks I missed those shows just because, I was out with the family or whatever. The light went off to my head and be like, sure, you can take time off. There's nothing wrong with that. But I almost felt guilty when I missed the show, or I did feel, not almost, I did. And last week, I was like, sure, let's do it Christmas Eve. And as soon as I sent that text, I'm like, dude, you're not doing a show on Christmas Eve. You're an idiot.
No
you
shot.
should have done it the day before, But it's like, commit to it. Find a time where you do it and put it on top of your priority list for an hour a week. We can all find an hour a week. I guarantee it.
Dude, 1,000%, and I think that, that's kind of the nice part about it is I think we've gone into it with the proper mindset, where is this going to live? Everywhere. It's going to be podcasts. It's going to be a YouTube show. We're going to clip it for stories. We're going to do that's all very much in the plan and in the works, and what excites me and where I think the most gasoline to the fire exists is bro, you and we haven't even talked about the stuff we're actually doing yet. Right. The case studies that we're going to have March, April-ish this coming year, fucking absurd. You know what I mean? Literally, we talked about Memorial Day being this benchmark, which I think it is. You know what I mean? By then, there's a pretty decent chance that as long as the boys are cool with it, we will literally have a concept to market brand to talk about. Quite literally from square zero, not even square one, to here. What we did, how we did it, why we did it, what's working, what didn't work, what did we change, all of it. that shit's going to be fun.
Well, and I think you're going to have to almost find people that are willing to record for a year and not, it is an interesting case study. We recorded for a year without virtually posting anything for the most part. It's like, all right, put your head down, record for 45 hours, then we will show you what to do. Like, how many people are going to be able to invest in something like that? I'm not saying it's the right strategy. I'm saying that's simply the strategy we took, whether we wanted to or not.
Well, I think so much of that is going to be dependent on who we're talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you talked about our buddy Matt Goddard at Cafe Football, that dude, if he wanted to start doing it, there's already so much goodwill and so much awareness around that. He could start week 4 if he wanted to, and kind of go from there and let people behind the scenes, because they already know so much of that stuff that would be part of that foundation.
Yep.
But if it's somebody that's starting brand new, they're going to be much more in the, hey, let's put 4 or 5 months down and then start talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the interesting part for me, is that it's going to be somewhat dependent on who you're talking about. Like, I think you're a great example. There's some clients that you work with that they're like, fuck, what are we gonna do for marketing? All right, let's call Adam. There's other people that already have such an audience that they just make an announcement and pre-sale sell out in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the other thing that I think is really interesting about, and will be interesting in 2021, is how much of an audience did you gain or did you lose in 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to find out. Like, right now it seems fairly ambiguous because, like, nobody really knows where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if you think that you're not making an impact one way or the other over the last 9 months, like, I don't know. I think you're slightly mistaken on that one.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to do with this is show people the playbook. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is how we made money on a podcast. It's like, no, here's the plan right here. It's right here. Nope. Guess what? Here's the plan. It's right here. Here's how we did it. And it's not to spike the football. None of this has been about spiking the football. It's always been about, we want other people to win in insurance and the attorney and the plumber and the guy that puts on snow tires and, what I don't care. We want you to be the first person, because the punchline for me is this. We want to give people the tools to be successful so that you become the thought leader in no matter what industry you're in. When somebody thinks about you without even, when I say snow tires, the first person that pops into your mind has been in your mind for a reason. I don't know who it is. You may not know anybody. You may think, I don't know, I go to Angie's List, or I go to Google, or I go to something. It's like, okay, then there's white space. There's white space there for somebody to become the thought leader in snow tires in Central New York. I don't know who that is. It's like whoever I feel, because that's top of mind because I have to call somebody about snow tires today. But that's the fun part for me, is showing people how they could potentially become the thought leader in this space and be successful, even during a pandemic. That's, for me, the bottom line for 2020 is that's what I was hoping to accomplish with this show. I hope to continue to accomplish it with this show, because we want more people to be more successful. We don't want people to have their businesses go down the drain or things like that. We want them to be successful, monetize, and be able to insulate themselves by building their brands in 2021. That's what I want personally.
Mm-hmm. And, candidly and selfishly, that's going to lead to new business.
Right.
Because the plan isn't hard. It's not complicated. Like, even the shit that we just talked about that you just wrote down. Oh, take the shows that you made and then carve them up into small pieces of things that your customers are going to care about. Duh. But doing it is the thing. No one's going to do it. Literally just this morning, I had a call this morning with a company in town, not a client, but people that we've worked with on different projects and stuff like that, that wanted to talk about marketing and social and all that. Literally sent them our onboarding documents. I'm like, hey, here's how we map out ROI targets. Here's how we map out ideas. Here's how the whole nine. Here's how we create action items to make these ideas happen. The whole nine, everything. You know what I mean? And then when you look at it, it's like, wow, this is super in depth, but it's some of the most obvious stuff ever. Just people won't do it. I hope they do. I think it'll be dope. There's also a decent chance that they just call you in 3 months and say, hey, we're in way over our head here. Like, can you help us with these 3 parts of it? Like, it's just always the answer. And like, that's what's crazy to me, especially in my industry. Like, we have a new client that's probably starting in January, and they came to us like at the beginning of this month and like showed us some of the other stuff that like they got from other agencies. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. They're making it seem like they're splitting atoms with everything. And I'm like, what are you, like, just trying to like sell them on buzzwords? And I'm like, who gives a shit what your cost per engagement? Like, cost per engagement doesn't pay rent. Like, an increase in sales pays rent, which is like, I don't know. It's just, it's a whole thing where like, you're 100% right. It's just giving everything away.
Because it's humanizing your position. I don't care what you sell. I don't care what your service is. It's the same punchline for everything. If you're going to be the booster for Casanova football and you're at every game, guess what? Write a review about every single game, or better yet, talk, have another buddy that you sit over a beer and be like, hey, let's go over the Casanova Canastota football game Friday night. Let's analyze it. Like, if you become that guy and you sell insurance here in town, you're going to get more Casanova football fans that are going to buy insurance from you because they listen to your podcast about you breaking down the game. Like, that's it. I don't care what you're in. It literally, I don't care if you're into sneakers. I don't care if you're into Jeeps. I don't care if you're into boats. I don't care if you're into growing your hair out. I don't care what you're into. Just talk more about that stuff, comma, you happen to sell insurance, comma, you happen to own the local laundromat, comma, you happen to own whatever. People are going to find out what you sell, the product or service. You just need to find more of your tribe. Find more people that are into the stuff that you're into, and you will sell more stuff. I mean, that is the name of the game, is just finding more people to figure out, and then figuring out where those people's eyeballs already are consuming their content. This is my Adam Sable part. Find out where those people already are, and make sure that the content that you're producing about the stuff that you're excited about is native to the platform, so that it doesn't create friction when I'm consuming it on my thing. Oh, he's a middle-aged dude that likes to upgrade his Jeep here in Casanova. I'm going to text that dude and be like, hey, can we compare notes sometime? Because that's what I'm already into.
It's like, we talk about it a lot. Like, it's just like I was talking about it this morning. I don't want to give too much away, but they're a B2B company in what has traditionally been a very stodgy industry. And they're talking about how our social strategy is pretty much just to show projects that we've done. And I'm like, this is going to sound harsh, but who cares about the product you've done? And they're like, what? I'm like, literally, like, who cares about that? Who cares that you had a fucking, revolutionary coating on your pipes so they were properly insulated? Nobody. But who are you guys? Who are they going to work with when they work with you? Who's going to answer the phone when they call in a panic when something goes wrong? What are you about? Like, what are you in? Like, who are you guys? Why are they going to like you? Why are they going to trust you? Why are they going to tell their friends to hire you? Like, and then this light bulb goes off, and it's like, oh, and like, but that's it. You're 100% right. And it's weird. I got into like a very not heated, but animated conversation with a client a couple weeks ago that about, that I won't mention. But I'm like, yeah, all of this like targeted data stuff is super, like, it's very important. Like, it's what I do for a living. But like, this matters just as much. If people don't know who you are or what you're about, I don't care how much money you're spending. No one's going to give a shit. You know, like, it's just, that's just the world we live in. And like, bring it on. You know, that's like it's funny why we have the success that we have now is that we have, like, it's just the most old school set of values with the most new school way of communicating it. And the faster people understand that, which is like, that's what this is. Shows like this are the 2021 version of people coming into your store every day and you asking about the kids or the wife or the car or the job, stuff like that. This is just what it looks like now. But fundamentally, everything's exactly the same as it was for our great grandparents.
Yep. It's about finding that attention, finding out where people's eyeballs are, and it's about putting your customers, both current customers and future customers, needs ahead of your own. How's your wife doing at the hospital? How are the kids doing with remote learning? How's ski racing going? How's, all this stuff, and just understanding that, that was a great point. I'm going to end on that. I have nothing better to say than that right there. I want to end 2020 on that. Well done, my man. I think next steps for us, sounds like we're going to need a video intern here pretty soon.
I would say so.
So I can dig into we'll talk about making the sausage. I can dig into Lemoyne quite a bit and either find that person, or you could probably dig into BU a little bit. How do you want to play that?
I think just cast as wide a net as possible and find the first person that we feel good about and give them a shot.
Do we identify the buckets, or do we have somebody come in with no experience with what we do and create the buckets for us, or do we identify those buckets ahead of time?
Door number 2.
That's what I thought.
I think you got to be open. This would be good to do on live. I like talking this out.
Yep.
I think you obviously have to be open to giving them some leash and letting them think about what is cool.
Yeah.
But I think that there's some serious vetting and getting to know the person before you give them the keys to the car and say, hey, do what you think is right. Because frankly, this shit is so new that your chances of finding somebody that's talented enough and knowledgeable enough to pick up on that is going to be tough.
So you think 5 or 6 buckets?
Yeah. I think that, to be honest, like, even just going through, I can't tell if this is like just sociopath behavior or if it's like proper resource, but like, I actually listen to the show every morning when I'm working out, like past episodes, just to like see what we talk about and all that. But I think investing becomes some serious time and kind of going through them again and seeing what pops out. Cause like, I don't remember what we talked about on March 18th. But I think kind of going through and then seeing what comes out. I mean, I think the 3 or 4 that we talked about are pretty obvious, but there may be another 2 to 3 that aren't coming to mind right away that we laid down some really good stuff on, but could be 4 buckets, could be 7. And then I think the big thing for us is going to be not only clipping it, but clipping it one way for Facebook, one way for stories, one way for LinkedIn, closed captioning on all of them. Facebook does it automatically now, which is great. LinkedIn and Instagram, not so much, but, and just stuff like that. And when people see that it's like that high quality and that relevant to the platform, because like, that's how you lose people. When it's the same, like when you see an Instagram story that's clearly just a video that you fucking threw up there, like, next. But when you see it vertical and it's like, yikes, these guys are serious about this, then that's how you go. Yep. And then, from there we just kind of do our thing. But and that's not, I mean, then, you get into like scheduling and like, do we want to make it, 90 seconds to start your Monday? and then that's posted on LinkedIn every morning at 7:30. And then there's a million ways that we can go with that, but the content's going to dictate it somewhat. But I think ideally you just find a kid that's like young and hungry and like to do it, like even like a 4-credit internship if they want, or like I think it can look like whatever, but just somebody that gets it enough, but will also just kind of mainly be dialed in to our stuff. I think that's the answer.
Yep, I love it. So whether it be 5 or 7 buckets, 90-second clips, and like you said, probably 10 or 12 of them. I mean, of each bucket. I mean, it's an astronomical amount of content.
It's there.
Yeah,
it's all there.
Right. It's exactly right. It is all there. Okay, that's next step for us, and I think the timing on it is perfect because everybody's going to be looking for internships starting the 3rd week of January. So now it's time for you and I to write up what this internship potentially looks like, and then send it off to our contacts and say, hey, let's start talking to some people. Let's get some hungry people in here. And what's beautiful about this is it can all be remote. It can all be sitting in your dorm room. You get your homework done, and then you listen to a show. Get your homework done, listen to a show, and chop it all up, and then share it in a Google Drive, and then you and I start pulling it down and figuring out where we want to repost it. I mean, that's the game.
Mm-hmm. Everything's saved. We can send them I think just get 3 interns. A little competition's always healthy. They might collaborate. Maybe one person does Instagram stories, one person does Facebook. Who knows? I mean, the possibility is endless. I think that's kind of the nice part. And like, I've always been somewhat hesitant to fuck with internships here because it's very hard to get good people that are going to do actual productive work that doesn't just become another task for you.
Yep.
But I think once you kind of get to that point, I think you're golden. And we have, the raw MP4 videos of everything in color. We have black and white. We have everything. So fucking go time, baby.
Love it. All right, let's end 2020 on that. I love it. That's exactly what I think I wanted to come in with and then come out of. I think it's just a continuation. It's a continuation of us trying to do what we advise others to do all the time. Mm-hmm. And, it's the equivalent of pointing to the scoreboard. So like, all right, see, we're doing it too. We believe in it so much that we just spent a year doing it. We're almost there. I mean, okay, 11 months. But now that's the barrier to entry. Do this 11 months or 5 months or 4 months, like you had mentioned, with people that have bigger brands or broader awareness. That's cool. But now we're getting into a different phase of the sausage making. The first phase was all of the raw ingredients, and you got to start doing that. Now it's like, okay, taking all those raw ingredients and then repackaging them somehow. And that's what we're getting into while still making raw ingredients. This isn't end live videos and podcasts. This is and continue to record podcasts. So it's just going to be more content, even though we're starting the process of repackaging.
Yep. And then because it's updated every week, and now all it becomes is this becomes the behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. It never stops. If it stops and you run out of shit to talk about, then we are not doing a good enough job on the 20% of shit that we should be doing. Game over.
Love it. Well, thanks again. Everybody, Facebook Live, thank you for watching. We understand that your most precious commodity is time, especially now. And I hope you're enjoying the holidays. If you're watching this on Instagram Instagram stories, LinkedIn stories, LinkedIn main page. What else am I forgetting? iTunes, Spotify.
YouTube, iTunes, Spotify.
This is going to be a lot of work, man. I'm ready for it.
The best things always are.
Bring on 2020. Facebook Live, thank you. Peace out.
See you.
All right. I think I killed it.
Looks like it.
I'll be back in 30 seconds. Hang on.
Nope.